What's going on, guys? This is Empty Box, and this is rFactor 2, where we're going to be driving the newly released Formula Renault 3.5 2014 specification here at Silverstone. We'll be doing a 20 to 25 minute long race against a field of AI, set to 105% difficulty, 30% aggression, and hopefully we'll have a bunch of fun. As many of you guys will know, rFactor 2 already had a Formula Renault 3.5, so what's the difference? Well, they changed the steering wheel. That's what they did. And in the process, they changed the wings, and on that steering wheel lies a button that says DRS, which I guess that calls the doctors when you inevitably get into a wreck. Or something like that. I don't know. But, yeah, I'm not going to give you the details as to what changed. Instead, I'm just going to go ahead and say, hey, look it! Power slides! Okay, we got that out of the way. You have forgotten everything that I just said because power slides. Of course, that does the tires absolutely no good and is dreadfully slow, so we'll try and keep that to a minimum. But, well, I just want to be a fun time without a power slide. However, within rFactor 2, the difference between the old car and the new car, or I should say current car, is almost night and day. If I would have tried doing that in the old car, there's like a 95% chance I would have ended up spinning out helplessly. You know, it's a different ballgame. And I did drive the old car before trying this one out. And I did that before trying it out for the first time ever, trying this new car. And it is a whole different ballgame. At speed, there isn't really too much of a difference. However, at low speed, it is a night and day difference in my opinion, which, you know, low speed grip, and when you're upside down, tires don't have very good grip. You know, the roll bar doesn't exactly provide good adhesion. But at low speeds with the older cars in rFactor 2, which the previous Formula Renault was a very old car, I think it's one of the first released, and it hadn't really received any major updates to keep in line with rFactor 2's current content. But just the low speed grip, and there really is no feeling of low speed grip in that car. And that makes it really weird to drive. At high speed and the medium speed and in greater corner, you know, once the downforce starts to come in a bit, car drives fine, but at low speed, just I always felt like I was constantly chasing that car. Still feel like I'm constantly chasing that car, whereas with this thing, I like it's much, much better. So basically, you got updated graphics. You got physics that are, you know, much improved. And I really think that rFactor 2 really is starting to mature. You know, I'll admit, a year ago, I was very hesitant with rFactor 2. In fact, at one point, I said that I'm not doing another rFactor 2 video until Indy cars, which I'll talk about a little bit later on. But, you know, they've definitely upped the game, and it is impressive. I always knew there was a very technically impressive engine here in rFactor 2. The question is, would they use it? And it really looks like they're starting to use it, and boy, is it awesome. So we'll flip on the DRS, as you can see, with the green LED there on the steering wheel. Rather than working like F1 or DTM, for example, it actually just closes the slot gap in the rear wing, which is pretty cool. Pretty interesting little implementation. I have to say this is probably already my favorite open wheeler in rFactor 2. Then again, I'm going to also say this, just for a reasoning behind it. The old Formula Renault, the low speed was just really weird. There was no feeling. The Formula 2 car is a rather nice drive, although the force feedback in that car, because it has like zero caster whatsoever, is basically non-existent. It's a very weird car to drive, and you have to learn how to drive without the force feedback on your standard wheel. I imagine if you had a servo-driven wheel, it'd be a different experience, but I unfortunately do not. So it's kind of weird. Not really a huge fan of Formula 1 cars. I'll just push him wide. Probably looking in the rearview mirror, you might have noticed there is a little bit of a bug, which is caused by a setting that I run that improves the rearview monitors on the sports cars. Unfortunately, it doesn't really work, and one little tap and that guy is gone. But unfortunately, that setting doesn't really work with this car, but that's a minor little issue, something that's been brought up already on the forum. So one thing I do like is this setup. I really have a strong feeling they basically just stole some engineer and stole his setup. It's like, yeah, hey, how's it going? Let's go visit the back of the garage. It's really dark back there. Yeah, so you're going to give me that setup sheet? No? Okay. Well, I'm going to forcibly take it. And that's how this setup was come to be born. But it really is almost a perfect match for Silverstone. It, has really good grip. It works. It's very nicely balanced, which, as well as the car physics, it's a very enjoyable drive. And if you're not a fan of this setup, they also have a easy setup, they call it, available as well, which is a nice thing. I hope that becomes the standard, as I would like to see multiple setup options from the get-go by default. That said, you do have to download that setup separately, which I'm guessing is because of the way setups are handled within rFactor 2. There not necessarily being an easy way to point out that there's a default setup option. And that guy, that was some good stuff right there. No quarter shall be given. So just wait for the DRS. You do not want to deploy your DRS in that corner, because, well, yeah, the next thing you know, the rear tires have no downforce and you're probably spinning, which is not a good thing. Spins are generally bad for the lap time. So really, I just have to say, ISI has done a very good job, and they've really upped their game. You told me a year ago that I'd be playing rFactor 2 and really liking it. I'm not saying, yeah, it could be great, but and just that impeccable feel of the car. This corner up here, you can really feel the car hook around the corner. It's just a very nice feeling. Especially when the AI is right in front of you. Although one thing that I think could probably be improved, which I'm not entirely sure if this is the case on these cars, mind you, is the aerodynamic, issues within racing, If I'm really close behind the car, I probably shouldn't have a whole lot of downforce. Within rFactor 2, I've kind of felt like that effect has been not necessarily as prominent as I feel like it probably should be. But, yeah. Should probably pay more attention to shifting, shouldn't I? I think that's like the 5th time I've banged it off the limiter for no reason at all. Just a very nice car to drive that makes me very excited for the Dallara DW12, which should be hopefully releasing any time now. And I will be giddy like a schoolgirl. So when you check the ISI forums and you see that the DW12 is released and then you hear a squeal out of nowhere and you can't figure out what it is, that was me. Just saying. You know, but this is kind of a weird choice, I feel, seeing how, you know, the IndyCar is coming. We've been told that it's probably going to, you know, make it out for around the Indianapolis 500, which is later on this week. In which case, you know, we'll have a new car, we'll have a new track. So it just seems kind of weird to release another car at the same time, just a little bit ahead of. Now, while this car is a massive improvement over the previous car, I do feel like it's kind of weird to potentially, you know, who knows, they might know something that I don't know, which they certainly do, but release 2 cars that are kind of similar. Now, obviously the Indy car has, you know, 700 horsepower in road course configuration, 750 somewhere around there, versus I believe around 500 in this car, but I don't know, it just seems kind of strange, which, you know, maybe if they were talking something like a, you know, stock car, you know, NASCAR style versus, you know, this car or, you know, the Cobra that they've been working on, maybe it'd make a little bit more sense, but it kind of seems strange. But that's just my 2 cents. Let's see if we can catch this guy. I should say guys. There's 2 of them up there. That's one thing I hate about the AI in rFactor 2. They really finicky with the difficulty in terms of aggression. Too much aggression and they just kind of go crazy. You know, they do a lot of dive bomb maneuvers. Too little, they just don't pass. It's one thing I'd like to see improve. But on the subject of AI, a lot of people don't seem to know that, you know, there are only so many AI files basically that control how much speed and everything that each driver has and how they react. And instead they choose to pack the grid full with like 90 cars because more is better, right? But what that ends up doing is it creates several instances of the same driver. And there is no grip out here. Car's not turning at all. But it creates several instances of the same driver, which basically means that the guy has a clone that drives the exact same speed and does the exact same stuffs, which makes for bad racing. So, just because you can add more drivers doesn't necessarily mean you should. Just keep that in mind. This is a very nice car to drive, though. Really, at least for me, kind of fits into a very nice area in terms of open-wheel cars. You know, the Indy car will be just about as fast as I go, as fast as I can handle. I'm not really interested in Formula 1 cars. You know, GP2 would be all right with me, but I think the licensing is probably a little bit more difficult to get in that case. But, you know, you got plenty of speed, you got plenty of downforce, plenty of grip. But not an overwhelming amount where, you know, the brake zones are really short, so it's more difficult to pass everybody, and just cars that create a good level of racing. can see, the weather has changed a little bit, which is something that I really like with rFactor 2. I like setting the clouds to different levels, that way it changes throughout the race. Kind of mixes up the lighting and everything. Just a very immersive car. Very nice force feedback if you're concerned by the Formula 2 within rFactor 2. The force feedback is nothing like that. It's quite similar to the previous Formula Renault, which shouldn't necessarily be a surprise, but after the Formula 2, I think everybody's kind of always... I hope the force feedback's not like that. Which I'm not saying it's necessarily wrong, but within sim racing, it does make for a very weird car to drive. But here I feel like I have very good command over what this car does and how it does it. A lot of confidence, feels very good. Yes, I am driving on a heavily rubbered-in track at this point. But even before that, I felt like this car kind of broke down less when you remove the rubber from the track, which in rFactor 2 does exist, and it does make a difference quite massively. But I feel like the newer cars, really since, if you follow rFactor 2, since they implemented chassis flex, just feel a lot more solid, a lot more put together. Especially on the green track, it seems like they lose the grip more normally rather than just like a flatline 50% grip reduction. That said, though, there is one issue with rFactor 2, and it's a major issue that isn't going to be fixed anytime soon, and that is just the tracks. I feel like every one of my rFactor 2 videos is from Silverstone because there really is not a whole lot of tracks that are, you know, absolutely top-notch, especially once you start getting up to faster cars. Which is kind of unfortunate. You know, Indianapolis will have both the oval as well as the road course. And a couple of different configurations with the newer road course that they ran in the IndyCar race, as well as the layout that they previously had there. But, you know, it just could use a few more tracks in really good quality, and I know someone's going to say, well, there's the community out there. Well, there's a lot of good tracks out there, don't get me wrong. There's also a lot of tracks that are not so good, as well as the fact that it seems like even on a lot of the tracks that, you know, graphically are really good, the layout's really good, it just seems like the AI is kind of one of those mystery zones for the community right now. You know, just getting that really finely balanced, just right level of AI seems to kind of be an issue. I gotta say, I love that series of corners. Usually, they're, you know, driving something like a Formula 1 car, it's just like over and done with. Whereas in this car, you really feel the car work. You feel the, you know, chassis doing what it's supposed to do. You feel the tires being tires. You feel the car hook around the corner. You know, honestly, if they had more tracks in rFactor 2 and there was more drivers online, it would be a very, very, very compelling package. I mean, for a lot of people, it's already their main sim of choice. Myself, there's a couple of reasons I'm not with it, most notably the fact that there's not a lot of drivers on the line, as well as the fact that as of right now, although this will change, there's not a car that I can really sink my teeth into. That said, they're releasing a Delara DW12. Wonder what I'm going to be driving a lot. So I'm very excited for that, as I'm sure you guys could probably figure out by now. But again, just going back to the track pack, I should say the tracks. That's good stuff right there. Some nice little wiggle coming out of the corner. Wheel-to-wheel racing. That's what you want. But like, if I could, convince any of you guys at ISI who happen to maybe see this video, you guys should totally do an IndyCar track pack. Definitely. You're gonna have the car for the top-level series of open-wheel cars here in America. It's sitting there, ripe for the picking. Just reach up on that tree, pull that apple down, and make me a very happy man. That would be absolutely, fantastically, amazingly amazing. But it really is a night and day difference between the old car and the new car. And this just isn't me remembering the old car as being a pile of poo, in my opinion, but I drove it before doing this video and still wasn't a fan at all. Still felt very, disconnected from the car, especially in the low-speed corners, whereas now I have a much better command on the car. I feel much more in control. I feel much more like the car is actually working with me rather than, corners like this where putting the power down previously was interesting. This will probably be our last lap. This car really does fit this track very nicely, though. Just love that series of corners here in this car. You can really feel the car work. And we're going to run wide, but who cares about track limits? This isn't iRacing. And did that just for the laughs right there. Because again, you can do that in this car. Yeah. Big improvement, yet again. Really, there was, made a couple of posts on the ISI forums about how rFactor 2 a year ago drove like crap. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna say I was not a fan, did not enjoy it at all. I saw there was a very capable engine behind, this sim. Is just a question of would it actually be refined and worked into something really top-notch. But they've done just that. But someone asked me what are the main differences between the old rFactor 2 and the current standard of cars. And really ever since they implemented chassis flex, I don't know if it's just chassis flex or something else that they did or something I must have missed in the build notes at that time. The car just feels a whole lot more tied together at low speed. In medium speed, transition corners, you can still feel the difference in the effect, as well as, you can really start to feel the car hook around the corner rather than just go around the corner like a completely solid, rigid object. Which obviously race cars are rigid, but You don't get the same feel, you don't get the same sensation, so I probably just missed the pit speed line. But what would it be with an rFactor 2 video without one of those ultra fast cooldown laps? And thank you, Mr. Red Bull. So hope you guys enjoyed. If you have rFactor 2, definitely install this car and say goodbye to the 2010 Formula Renault, because it's garbage compared to this. So hope you guys are having fun with this car. Hope you guys enjoyed. Bye.